Hi, this is Laura Holyoke, and I have a short PowerPoint presentation, hopefully semi-short, for the trifocal HR frame or lens. And specifically, I'm going to cover one part of the trifocal lens today. So why try? Because Bowman and Deal look at it from an HR only. So try is broken into three areas to help understand that it's not just personal. So today we're going to talk about personal, that is the human beings that we work with, what's similar or different about them, what we may need to take into account that we currently don't. And then in the next PowerPoint I'll cover a family or group lens, look at group dynamics and whatnot. And then the final part of the trifocal lens is the medical, clinical, or organismic lens. Because organizations are living systems, we term it organizational or organismic. So this lens overall tends to lift the need to blame somebody. What else is included in the personal lens? Characteristics of people and their effects on organizations. So this part is really based on psychology because it sees organizations much like an extended family, and we look at people in our family personally. So certain things that to take into effect about people that are in an organization, the age, and specifically what generation do they come from, what's their gender, and their sexual orientation. To look at racial or ethnic background makes a difference. Also, what is their occupation? Where are they in their career stage? What's their employment status? Are they getting ready to retire? Are they just coming in? To look at their health status and history. So specifically not only their own health status and history, but who are they taking care of in their extended family? Finally, personality characteristics. So I'm going to talk you through some different ways that Bowman and Deal don't cover in their book to look through a personal lens. Richard Swenson came up with what's called a human margin equation. And so what he said is that we each have resources that we pull from, and then we also have load that takes away from those resources, and we end up with margin. We usually want to end up with positive margin. So this is again a systems equation, and it looks at human beings because we all have a human margin equation. So to go over each one of these elements, resources tend to be skills that we have, time, maybe our emotional stamina, maybe physical strength, our financial solvency, social supports that we have, education that we have in our background. Load is broken into two factors, the internal factors. So these are personal expectations that we have on ourselves, whether we put on ourselves, I have to get an A or I will die. These are invisible, although they tend to preoccupy our mind quite a bit, and sometimes only we know what these internal factors are. And then we have external factors, and this is what we can often see in others around us. What kind of workload do they have? Are they having relationship issues? And do they have responsibilities of taking care of others? What about financial debts, health problems? So the goal is to have more resources than we have load, because what happens if our load is greater than the resources that we have? We end up in what's called negative margin. And negative margin means that we have nothing left for anyone or anything. And so many of us end up with negative margin in shorter periods of time. But what happens if we carry negative margin for a long period of time? One of two things happens. So either we have to make some kind of fundamental change in how we're doing our life or what it is that we're doing, or people tend to collapse. They have breakdowns. So if we look at margin as equal to slack resources, the theory is that there should be something left. And the analogy we can remember from the structural lens is that slack resources is what we need to continue doing something. When we're in negative margin, we don't have anything left, and we don't have any energy, we don't have any time, we don't have any money resources. Sometimes it's one of those, sometimes it can be all of those. So again, like I said, when we are in negative margin over time, or when we see others in negative margin over time, some kind of collapse can happen, or people just need to decide that I'm going to make a voluntary fundamental change because I can't keep doing what I'm doing right now. The next concept that I want to talk to you about is called the Johari window. The Johari window was put together, or was come up with, if you will, by two researchers called Joseph Luft and Harry Ingram. So technically it should be the Johari window, but it's not. It's the Johari window. So I'm going to talk about this both in the personal lens as well as our group and family lens. So this gives us one way to look at people. The Johari window is broken into 4 different window panes. And the first one is known as the open arena. In the open arena, we know whatever it is about ourselves, and we also, others know it as well. So it may be that people are married, or have X number of children, or drive a certain kind of a car. The second window pane is called a blind spot. So the blind spot is what others know about us, but we don't know about ourselves. Oftentimes we think that other people know this about themselves and we don't tell them. So a blind spot may be something that you do when you meet somebody, that you may look down or look in a left corner that everybody else notices, but you don't notice. So it's known by others, but unknown to self. The third quadrant is known as a facade quadrant. So this quadrant is what we know about ourselves, but what we don't want to tell others. And we may want to keep this private, or we just haven't, we don't know somebody well enough to tell them about this. And then finally, the fourth quadrant is known as the unknown quadrant. So it's something about ourselves that we have not discovered yet, nor does anybody else know. Sometimes what falls into this unknown quadrant may be a hidden talent that we just haven't stumbled upon. Other times, something that's put in the unknown quadrant may be something that we've suppressed from years ago and no longer remember it. So when you look at people and getting to know people, if you take these 4 quadrant areas, if you take the first quadrant area and make it bigger, that means that as it goes to the right, we ask for more feedback or solicitation so we can learn more about ourselves. And we also increase downward by disclosing more, and exposure of ourselves probably means that we trust one another a little bit more. And then, so as you're going down and to the right, that's kind of a shared discovery mode. So it's being with others as they observe ourselves and as we discover something new about ourselves. So you can see that some people tend to have larger or smaller quadrant areas. Specifically, people that are very large in the open, free area are known usually extroverts and don't bowl over other people, but they have a lot of self-respect and respect for other individuals, and we know a lot about these people, and they know themselves very well. A person with an oversized blind area would maybe be kind of like a bull in a china shop. This person may not know that he or she takes up all the airtime in a conversation because that is the blind spot. If the hidden area is very large, these people may be very introverted, maybe not trusting of anybody else, that they don't disclose very much information at all. We may not know. We may work with this person for years and years and not know anything about their family. And then if you have a very large unknown area, that's simply that you you haven't done any self-discovery, and nor have others inquired about you at the same time. So again, something to look at the Johari window in individuals that we work with. Hypothetically, we work with individuals that may have dysfunctional personalities that are not good fits for the job, or maybe even not good fits for their organization. It may be that these people, if put in a different organization and a different job, would not have these dysfunctional personalities. So I just have a few up here that I thought were kind of cute, I guess, but the paranoid personality, somebody that's depressive, somebody that's overly dramatic, maybe somebody that's compulsive, or somebody that's schizoid. Or it can be a combination of these. So the next element that I want to talk about in terms of personal is to look at, and this also comes into play when we talk about groups and teams and organizations. So French and Raven's bases of power, they come up with 5 bases of power. And this is power that we have over somebody else. So reward power is the ability to provide positive reinforcement for some kind of desired behavior. And this may mean giving somebody an A or giving somebody some money for doing something. The second kind of power is coercive power. So it's the potential to inflict punishment. This is not always physical punishment. This can be a dirty look. This can be grounding somebody. The next kind of power is referent power, and this kind of power comes from the respect that others have for us because of who we are or our attributes. And then fourth kind of power is expert power. So this is a form of power that we have when we have a recognized expertise that those around us do not have. Finally, there's legitimate power. A legitimate power is based on an authority that's recognized in accordance with a position. So as a faculty member, I would have legitimate power over my students. Supervisors tend to have legitimate power over the people that they're supervising. Something to note that I think is a little interesting is that there are hardly any circumstances where we don't have a choice of this power. So we always allow somebody else one of these powers over us. Granted, if you were in jail, or even some kinds of coercive or inflicting punishment, you may not have a choice. But all the other powers we tend to give to others. So that's the end of the personal lens. I look forward to talking to you again in the next couple of PowerPoints.